Thank you, Mr Chair, and it's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Strangford. And I want to begin, as many others have, by thanking the Honourable Lady for Truro and Falmouth for this important debate and helping to ensure that this issue remains very firmly and very highly on the political agenda. Now, whilst health in Scotland is devolved, there is no diversion in the goals between the goals across the UK in our collective will to do all we can to reduce baby loss. And I have, in almost every debate on baby loss which I've spoken in, which I think is all of them, about the fact that in the past, too many women have reported that they felt concerned about their unborn babies because, and I quote, something just doesn't feel right. And they go on to report that they have been dismissed and then subsequently to suffer a stillbirth. And I've repeatedly said, and it's a fundamental point in a debate about stillbirth, I think, I've repeatedly said that women know their own bodies and clinicians need to listen to them. And if this was done routinely, then I know that some of the tragedies of baby losses that have happened could have been avoided. Because the loss of a baby, of course, devastating as that is, it brings with it not just crushing grief for the bereaved parents and the wider family, it brings with it a real social cost. Now, we know that 50% of marriages end in divorce. You are 8 times more likely again to divorce if you have suffered the loss of a child in any circumstances. And, of course, the cost of divorce to society is well documented, as well as the social cost and the personal cost for all those involved. So we need to bear these things in mind. When the worst does happen and a baby is lost, it is truly devastating. And we know that the high quality bereavement care is very important. Now, I'm very pleased that the Scottish Government is alongside the UK Government funding SANS UK, the stillbirth and neonatal charity, to develop national bereavement care pathways for different types of baby loss. But I also have a sense that the culture in some quarters of dismissing pregnant women when they report that something is not quite right, I've got a sense that that is changing, and I really and truly hope that it is. We've seen in recent years, and I know that people have talked a lot about figures today, but we've seen in recent years some very modest improvement in the stillbirth statistics, and that's very welcome. However, there's still a long way for us to go in understanding more about stillbirth and baby loss. Now, in Scotland, the Scottish Government have unveiled the Women's Health Plan to improve women's health in the round, because, of course, we've talked about health inequalities and how that inevitably impacts outcome. So looking at women's health in the round is very important, and of course that would include maternity and neo and postnatal care. And the Best Start 5-year forward plan for maternity and neonatal care in Scotland recommends that all women receive continuity of care and of maternity and obstetric care, and a number of speakers today have talked about that, in particular the Honourable Member for Truro and Falmouth. It does help improve outcomes for both mother and babies. Any focus on reducing baby loss must have a focus on preeclampsia, the most common of the serious complications of pregnancy. If we knew even more about this condition, we could save around 1,000 babies from stillbirth each year. The challenge it poses is that in its early stages, preeclampsia has no symptoms. Now, I have an interest to declare, Mr Chair, as my baby son was stillborn on the very day he was due to be delivered, and this was down to a very extreme form of preeclampsia called HELLP syndrome. Now, I won't recount the details of baby Kenneth's death again. I have done it several times in previous debates, and I'm now actually just getting to the point. Kenneth will be coming up for his 12th birthday. I'm actually getting to the point now where I can talk about it without automatically bursting into tears. So I suppose that's progress for me. But as the Honourable Member for Truro and Falmouth pointed out, knowing why your baby has died is really, really important. Just as I did, many bereaved parents find that the shutters come down when they ask the question why, and it's very hard to get answers. and you're much more likely to be fobbed off than to be given any explanation. And I can testify to the impact of such treatment after your baby is stillborn, and it's beyond what any bereaved parents should have to suffer. And if there's anything that can make a stillbirth worse, it is that kind of treatment of being dismissed. How can we honestly say that practitioners are seeking to improve how they do things and how they improve outcomes if, when mistakes happen, as they inevitably will at times, but if mistakes happen, they appear too often to go unacknowledged? And I have no reason, sadly, to believe that that culture has changed. In my case, all the signs of the extreme form of preeclampsia, HELLP syndrome, all the signs were there, but they were missed by a series of clinicians. And this very nearly also led to my own death from a ruptured liver. Now, there's really interesting work going on, and I know that Minister knows about this work. There's really interesting work going on with regards to preeclampsia with placental growth factor testing, which can really point us towards improving the early detection and diagnosis of preeclampsia, which will save babies' lives. And offering this test to every mother has implications for lab capacity and other resources. Resources are always scarce. They're always more scarce than we would like. But it compensates by reducing the demand on maternity services in other ways, and offers the potential to reduce admission of expectant mums for suspected preeclampsia in lower risk women, as well as reducing unnecessary inpatient monitoring tests. So I hope that we will, in the next few years, be able to reduce a significant number of stillbirths which are caused by preeclampsia through the use of the PGLF testing of suspected cases of preeclampsia. However, as everyone else will be, I'm deeply concerned that some of the very, very modest progress in recent years in tackling baby loss and stillbirth appears to have been reversed since the start of this pandemic. Now, this phenomenon has been noted in a number of countries across the world. We know that in St George's Hospital in London, they highlighted a fourfold increase in stillbirths, and in Scotland too, there has been a rise since the March 2020 lockdown. Although even during lockdown, stillbirth rates were lower than they have historically been in the past, it is still very alarming that there has been a rise. To have suffered a stillbirth during this pandemic, while separated from the wider support that family and loved ones can provide, is truly heartbreaking and has made it all the worse. But this increase in stillbirths during lockdown is being investigated by experts. But what we need to know is the true cause. Was it because expectant mums were more reluctant to seek help? Was it caused directly by the effects of COVID-19 on babies? Or is there some other explanation? Regardless of the cause, this is a very worrying development. And we're all waiting on the publication of research on this to see what can be learned from this to inform future care, which is better and more responsive to women's needs during COVID, which we have to remember is still with us. So I'm delighted that we've had this debate today on this very important issue, and hope that wherever reductions in baby loss are made, the whole UK will share best practice, and each part of the UK will learn from its other constituent parts, because expectant mothers and families awaiting a new arrival should all be entitled to the safest delivery of their baby that is possible for them to have.